Are you ready to go? All right, thumbs up from everyone. We will bring this meeting to order and start with the roll call.
Commissioner Kraft?
Here.
Commissioner Meyer?
Here.
Commissioner Lazar?
Here.
And Commissioner Freitas is not with us.
Commissioner Kraft, do you want to lead us in the salute to the flag? Thank you. Approval of minutes for the regular meeting from August 13th.
I reviewed the minutes. They look good, so I'll make a motion to approve them.
I'll second.
All right, motion carries. You want me to do a whole vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're welcome. We'll stay procedurally accurate. Dissent? Fair enough.
Or seconds without wanting to agree with what's going on. So it's better if we have a vote so we know it's all.
Officially voted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oral communications. This would be an opportunity for anyone here that wants to speak on an item not on our agenda tonight. I don't see Zoom, but
If anyone on Zoom would like to speak during the oral communications, please raise your hand and we will unmute you as we get hands raised.
I don't see anything up here.
all right. Thank you. We will close oral communications and move to public hearing news, Jack Seafood security fence.
That's Assistant Planner Alex Gonzalez, who will be presenting tonight.
All right. Does everybody see that on their screens? Okay, sweet. Good evening, commissioners. I'm Assistant Planner Gonzalez, and I'll be presenting the Jack Seafood Security Fence, Coastal Development Permit, and Design Review at 4C Street. Here's an overview of the project location identified by the red star. It's located in the coastal area of the city. Zooming in, the property is located on a 1.96 acre site, which is outlined in red and is located on the northwestern corner of Waterfront Drive and C Street. The site the project location is part of a larger city-owned property that includes a fisherman's terminal building, and it's currently separated in two main areas. On the eastern side is the Jack Seafood restaurant, and on the western side is a crab transportation operation business. Along the outside of the portion that Fisherman Jack Seafood is located, there's a covered walkway, an entrance, and an alcove for tenant bathrooms that's not open to the public. Just outside of that covered area is an outdoor seating area and access to the Mattakit C Street public dock. The proposed project, the applicant proposes to install a 7-foot tall open wrought iron fence with 4 gates of a similar design as the fence panels. It will be placed along the covered walkways and alcove only, as shown by this red outline here. And the outdoor areas, including the Mattakit Plaza and access to the public dock, will remain unobstructed by the project. Here we see the zoning districts in the vicinity, and the property is identified by the red star. It's located in the Coastal Dependent Industrial District and borders the Waterfront Commercial CW zoning district to the east and the south. It's located in design review area, and currently in the coastal zone, all fences are between the public road and the sea are considered structures and therefore require a CDP. And since the site is also located in design review area, it requires site and architectural review. And in this case, design review is acted upon by the Planning Commission. According to the Eureka Municipal Code, when multiple permits require approval from more than one decision-making body, the body with the highest review authority shall act on the approvals at one hearing, which is in this case is a planning commission. And the planning commission's actions on the coastal development permit and design review is appealable to the city council, and the city's final action on the coastal development permit is appealable to the California Coastal Commission. To approve the coastal development permit, the Planning Commission must find the project conforms to the Certified Local Coastal Program, which implements the California Coastal Act on the local level. For site plan review, the commission must find that the proposed development will preserve the natural beauty of the site, prevent indiscriminate clearing of property or destruction of trees and shrubs, prevent excessive grading or creation of drainage hazards, ensure structures are properly related to their sites and surrounding sites, and ensure that walkways are appropriately arranged. For architectural review, the commission must prevent the erection of structures that are inharmonious with surroundings and have a negative effect on value of the property in the vicinity. As discussed in detail in the staff report, staff believes all findings can be made for the proposed project with conditions. Some notable conditions that staff recommend include conditions requiring fence removability. The staff report discusses how a 7-foot tall fence may diminish the overall inviting visitor serving character and visual quality of the area, but currently unsanctioned activity can deter or is considered a greater detriment to the character and visual quality of the area. Therefore, staff recommends a condition requiring that the fence be easily removable. So in the future, if that unsanctioned activity, if or when is not a problem anymore, the city as property owner can remove the fence. To ensure public access is not obstructed, a condition is recommended making it clear that access to the Mataquit Plaza, dock, and boardwalk must remain open and unobstructed during and after construction. And to avoid any impacts to the nearby Humboldt Bay from construction activities, a condition is recommended requiring the applicant to ensure the implementation of erosion, sediment, and waste measures. Staff believe all of the required findings to approve the coastal development permit and design review can be made and are included in the staff report. And for these reasons, the recommendation is to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution finding the project is exempt from CEQA and conditionally approving the application. I have a suggested motion when you're ready, but I'll stop screen sharing. And I believe the applicant is on Zoom and staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, Assistant Planner Gonzalez. I will bring it back to the commissioners for questions for staff.
I'll start. What noticing applies in this situation, and did you get any comments from that?
We didn't get any comments from my understanding prior to the meeting, and we send out a public notice to property owners within 300 feet, I believe, and
tenants in this case, because it's in the coastal zone.
Thank you, Raylene.
Okay.
And did we post a sign?
Oh, yes, we also posted the site.
All right. Appreciate it.
Can you clarify what's the purpose or what's driving this? I think you were speaking about the unsanctioned activity, but can you be a little more specific?
Yeah, in the staff report, as in attachment 1 or 2, the applicant, which is the owner for Jack Seafood, says that since beginning operation, there's problems with vandalism, graffiti, human feces, people trying to connect to the electricity and water, breaking of windows, and so some examples.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. And it sounds like it wouldn't be the finding is a little bit tricky in that it does kind of make it less visually inviting, and so we're trying to kind of juggle that versus the situation that's emerged since the building was built, and this is seen as a better pathway. Is that kind of staff's position on that?
Yeah, I think the hope is that it's a temporary thing, and that's why we want it to be easily removable, and so hopefully that will kind of help lessen that stuff.
Okay, thanks.
It looks like it's just coming basically up to the entrance of the restaurant.
Yeah, only it's going to be only along the covered walkways.
And then there'll be gates. So like during open hours, they'll open both sides. So it'll still have easeway.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, we will open it up for a public hearing. Just as a reminder, you'll have 3 minutes. And we appreciate if you would state your name.
McKeegan. Oh, okay, Michelle McKeegan, resident of Eureka. I understand the concerns that the owner of this restaurant has. I've been involved with planting trees down in this part of town, and there's lots of vandalism, and it's very discouraging. At the same time, that location, which is earning them a lot of vandalism, is also earning them a lot of customers, and so I think that there's the bad with the good there. I think that a fence would be totally out of character with the area. The waterfront is our jewel, and to put fences around places is just going to be incredibly ugly and very off-putting. It sends a message that this is not a very safe place to be, and I don't think we want to send that message. That's all I wanted to say. I think it would be a very great mistake to do this, and I think it would set kind of an example to other businesses to do the same, and we don't want to do that.
Thank you.
If anybody on Zoom would like to speak, they can raise their hand.
I'm not seeing any hands.
Okay, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to commissioners for motion and discussion. Could you bring that motion back up on the screen?
I'll go ahead and make the motion, and at least for purposes of discussion, I move the Planning Commission adopt a resolution finding the project exempt from CEQA and conditionally approving the Jack's Seafood security fence.
For discussion purposes.
I'm sympathetic to what the owner's trying to accomplish here. I've been involved with a business in the general neighborhood, and it really is difficult to deal with the messes that are there almost every morning. So while I don't love it for character, I think I can support it. I also I don't think we're making the permitting situation any more weird, but to have a seafood restaurant in a coastal dependent is gray area. So I don't think, we do have a lot of CDI. That's been a theme for me for a bit, but I don't think we're making the permitting situation worse by doing this. So I'm inclined to vote for the project.
Yeah, so I do sympathize with the public speaker we heard from. I do think it's kind of a struggle to install fencing in public places that are very, very public, especially the waterfront. I guess I'm partly taking a historical perspective. The waterfront was walled off for much of its early history by warehouses and things that prevented access. So, we enjoy a far more open environment today than you would have in the early 1900s or earlier. I think the only place where we could potentially be more precise on trying to make this truly a sort of temporary measure in the event that it becomes unnecessary would be something that would require revisiting it, because otherwise we're never going to see this again, and it will be at the landowner's discretion. I would think. I see the removability condition in the resolution, but I don't see any trigger for it ever going away, though I understand the sentiment that it's only as needed. So I don't know how that would be engineered, frankly, because it would
You
really,
could do a limited term
right.
permit condition for a coastal development permit.
Or until the time that lot is developed.
Well, lots developed. Right?
I'm saying low adjacent lot.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it could be something where there could be because how would you really know if it's not necessary anymore? If the fence is working, it's not necessary, but only because it's working, right? So it would be almost like you'd have to take it down, see if it got worse again, then decide, to put it back up. So short of that, I don't know how you would ever really be able to engineer that. I mean, I'd be interested to the director. Do you have any ideas on how that could be pragmatically approached?
Well, I thought the chair's idea was good about it being when the adjacent site develops, that'll be more activity, more eyes on that area 24/7.
Right.
Or you could just do a blanket term with like an ability to extend. That's how the Coastal Commission does limited term coastal development permits.
Yeah.
I don't know how long our lease is with Jack Seafood. You know, the city owns that. So tying it to the lease term would be another way to do it. If I've seen that in coastal development permits.
Because the fence, once it's constructed, is ultimately the property of the city. It's just used by the tenant during their lease, right?
Yeah, that's why we didn't put a limited term condition in there, because we believe we have the ability to take it down in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't see a connection between a term limit and the fence going away, because it just seems like there wouldn't be a correlation between a certain amount of time and then it's safe to remove it or something like that, or revisit it without testing that out. I think making it removable easily is an important component. So I appreciate staff's work on including that requirement, but I don't see an easy way to engineer anything that would make sense to me, at least.
Certainly adding it into the lease might be, or at the end of the term of the lease,
Right.
would make sense.
Yeah, maybe something that would give a trigger to. Well, but then it would be subject. Could it be subject to director review or something like that? It wouldn't have to come back to us. Or do you want it to?
Yeah, I guess you could build the condition that way.
Because I don't think we want to bring it back to a public hearing. I think we just need to have a conversation if it's still appropriate, and then empower the director to administer that condition.
Yeah, you want to give it a go on changing the.
Or just adding a condition. So I guess we have a motion and a second. Are you open to that, Michael? Okay, so with the additional condition that upon cessation of the lease, the fence will be either removed or subject to reauthorization by the director of the Department of Community Development Services. And I guess to include a basis for that. So it would be subject to review and a reauthorization by the director should it be found that the fence continues to be needed. Yeah.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Sorry. So subject to review and reauthorization by the director of Community Development Services should it be found that the fence is still needed.
And tied to the lease term.
Yeah, and tied to the lease term.
Okay. I like that friendly amendment.
You're prepared to take a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And before we move on, just so people know, the coastal development permit decision of the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days, and there's no appeal fee for that.
Thank you for clarifying. All right, we'll move to F2, Humboldt Transit Authority Hydrogen Fueling Station.
Sorry, this is our senior planner. Sorry, I didn't introduce you.
Good evening. My name's Chris Lowe Hefner, and I'm here to introduce a coastal development permit for the Humboldt Transit Authority Hydrogen Fueling Station. Is this thing not going? There it goes. HTA is located at 133 V Street on Eureka's north side, just north of the 101 corridor and west of Target. The property is located. Why is this not going? It's not clicking. There it goes. The property is located in the coastal zone in the Service Commercial Zoning District with a land use designation of General Service Commercial, both of which are intended to support a broad mix of retail, service, community facilities, residential, and other uses. HTA is proposing to install a new hydrogen fueling station and related site improvements, primarily consisting of building demolition and site preparation, addition of a hydrogen fueling station, administrative office building additions, maintenance bay retrofits, and use of a temporary hydrogen fueler. This project requires a coastal development permit, coastal design review, and a lot merger, though the CDP is the only approval before you tonight. The others are forthcoming with project progresses. And a quick background. HTA was established in 1975 as a JPA between the county and the cities of Arcata, Eureka, Fortuna, Rio Dell, and Trinidad. HTA's facility includes offices, maintenance bays, bus storage, and gasoline and diesel fueling infrastructure, with portions of the facility dating back to the 70s. In 1999, HTA received a conditional use permit to expand and renovate the facility, including bus storage, above-ground storage tanks, and a new fueling terminal, among other site improvements. HTA currently operates RTS, Willow Creek Transit Service, and Southern Humboldt Transit System, including fixed route and dial route services throughout much of the county. And in 2023, HTA was awarded a $38 million grant through the state's Transportation Agency's Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program to support the transition to a zero-emission fleet by purchasing a bunch of hydrogen fuel cell electric buses and developing this project. One of the first project components is the demolition of the building at 104 W Street. It is an old building built in 1896 and highlighted in Eureka's Green Book, an architectural view. There are records of residential permits dating back to the 50s, such as general repairs and demolition of accessory structures, but no information regarding inclusion or removal of onto the local historic registry. Formerly a residence, the structure was converted into an office building in 1985 by Utility Tree Service, and the permit history shows that over the course of a few years, they replaced the front porch deck, altered the foundation, installed shingle siding, and added a second story. The building was later acquired by HTA in 2022. Come on, this is not working for me, sorry. Due to the age of the building, a Cultural Resources Technical Report was produced in 2025, which describes substantial alterations over the years that has compromised the historical integrity of the building, essentially rendering it ineligible for local or national registries. The building also contains lead and asbestos, which will be removed during demolition, with best management practices in place. The primary project component is the installation of a hydrogen fueling station. There will be 2 HTA-specific fuel dispensers placed under the existing island canopy and a new public fueling island built along First Street. An 18,000-gallon liquid hydrogen above-ground storage tank will also be installed and integrated into the fueling islands. There will be other site improvements to support this infrastructure, such as modernization of electrical systems, utility upgrades, safety features, and fencing and gates. A temporary hydrogen fueler will also be located on HTA's property enabling existing operations and testing of new buses to continue without interruption from the construction project. And once the main fueling station is operational, the temporary fueler will be removed. Another project component is the retrofitting of the existing vehicle maintenance bays to accommodate hydrogen buses and other fleet vehicles. The improvements include electrical and fire suppression system upgrades, HVAC system improvements, and other safety measures. The utility connections on W Street will also be upgraded and a fire hydrant replaced. This maintenance bay piece of the project was actually approved under categorical exclusion 25-9 earlier this year, but is considered part of the project for purposes of CEQA environmental review. The other primary piece of the project is to construct new office additions onto the existing facility at 133 V Street. Currently in the design phase, the new offices will be added to provide room for the displaced staff from the demolition of 104 W Street. The plans for the additions will be subject to design review once they are submitted. HTA has identified a couple of construction staging areas for the project, one inside the main yard and the other on their property directly across First Street. Referred to as Staging Area A, this property consists of a large mowed area surrounded by thick vegetation and will be used to store buses and other equipment. In 2015, a wetland delineation was prepared and noted the presence of 1, 2, and 3 parameter wetlands throughout the property, and this profile was again confirmed in 2025. Staging is proposed on the upland portion of the site, just outside of the delineated wetlands. Construction vehicle traffic can often impact city traffic patterns and be a concern for neighbors. And accordingly, all large vehicle construction traffic from Highway 101, 4th and 5th Street will be routed along H and I Street to Waterfront Drive and then around to the HTA site, largely avoiding residential areas and retail areas near the HTA property. To approve the coastal development permit, the Planning Commission must find the project is consistent with the policies of the city's local coastal program. The LCP covers a wide array of topics which are analyzed in the staff report, but I will get into a little bit of detail about 3 of those topics later in this presentation: protection of biological resources, provision of public access to and along the shoreline, and minimization of coastal hazard risk. Approval of the coastal development permit is a discretionary city action requiring environmental review under CEQA. In July of 2025, an initial study mitigated negative declaration was completed and concluded that the project would have less than significant impacts with 7 mitigation measures incorporated. These are all construction phase measures focused on avoiding impacts to air quality, biological resources, and cultural resources during project construction. The city received 1 set of comments from the California Coastal Commission regarding the ISMND, specifically focused on Staging Area A, wanting to ensure an appropriate wetland buffer and requesting clarification on whether the project only permitted temporary staging in the area or also permitted long-term use of the site. In response, the city prepared a response to comment and errata to address the Coastal Commission's concerns, imposing a 5-foot buffer that will be flagged during construction, adding a requirement for monitoring of the wetlands condition by a qualified biologist both during and immediately following construction, and clarifying that the current authorization is only for temporary staging and not for permanent use of the site. Staff is also recommending these requirements be included as conditions of approval of the CDP, with a further stipulation that HTA will have to submit a restoration plan if monitoring indicates that wetlands have been impacted by staging work. In addition to biological resources, another key LCP issue is coastal public access. There is a waterfront trail access point at 1st and X Street, just north of the HTA facility, and 1st and 2nd Streets are often used to access Waterfront Drive and the shoreline. To minimize impacts to public access during construction and to make the public access finding for the CDP, staff has conditioned the development of an access management plan, which must include a plan to ensure any temporary closure of the trailhead for construction-related public safety purposes will be minimized and adequate signage will be posted to redirect public to nearby trailheads. The plan shall also ensure any temporarily closed portions of city sidewalks and streets will be rerouted to ensure continuous traffic circulation through the neighborhood, with signage to inform the public about any temporary detours. The plan shall also include a description of temporary access control measures to be used, a site plan showing the proposed locations of detour routes around construction, and temporary access barriers. A final LCP topic I want to touch on is minimizing coastal hazard risks. A variety of potential hazards were analyzed, and risks to flooding and tsunami were shown to be insignificant. Similarly, projected sea level rise is not expected to have any negative impacts over the lifespan of the project given the elevation of the site. And HTA is currently working on a broader master plan for their whole facility that will look at longer-term sea level rise vulnerability and adaptation strategies. With respect to hydrogen safety, the hydrogen fueling station will not create new sources of odors, explosion risks, or environmental contamination. Hydrogen is a non-toxic, odorless gas, liquid, and unlike gasoline or diesel, does not produce lingering vapors or liquid spills. As the lightest element, it disperses rapidly in open air, making sustained accumulation highly unlikely. While hydrogen is indeed flammable, ignition requires a very narrow concentration range combined with an ignition source, conditions that are prevented by the safety designs, continuous monitoring, and automatic shut-off systems that will be implemented as part of this project. These safeguards ensure no credible risk of odor nuisance, explosion hazard, or environmental contamination to the surrounding community. In addition to the 7 mitigation measures incorporated into the project via the CEQA environmental review process, staff recommends attaching a number of conditions to the coastal development permit, and I'll just highlight a few of the more noteworthy ones. The project must adhere to all mitigation measures outlined in the Mitigation, Monitoring, and Reporting Program. It must obtain all relevant permits and approvals, such as design review, a lot merger, building and encroachment permits, as well as requirements from Humboldt County Department of Environmental Health, local fire department, and others. It must conform to outdoor lighting and landscaping requirements, as well as construction-related noise. The project must have in place an access management plan as discussed, and the project must have safety plans and hazardous materials storage plans in place. There are, of course, the biological related conditions for staging Area A that I discussed earlier. And finally, there are unused sewer laterals and other utility connections that need to be capped, moved, or otherwise modified as specified in the referral comments. Speaking of referral comments, on last Friday, September 6th, the city received a delayed referral comment from PG&E stating a need for certain gas and electrical connection relocations. Staff is proposing to amend the resolution to incorporate these new project conditions proposed by PG&E. Proposed for Section E, Utilities, Infrastructure, and Stormwater, the suggested condition reads, PG&E referral comments. Prior to building permit approval, applicant shall address and/or adhere to all PG&E referral comments provided in project referral communications submitted September 6, 2025. In sum, staff believe all of the required findings can be made to conditionally approve the coastal development permit, and they are included in the staff report in detail. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution to conditionally approve HDA's coastal development permit. I do have a suggested motion, but we'll stop screen sharing until you're ready. And I believe we have some team members from the applicant and myself available for questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Bring it back to commissioners for questions for staff.
I'm looking over at Commissioner Lazar because I thought he might ask this question first. And since my time on the Planning Commission, we have not had something in front of us that proposes to demolish something that's in the Green Book. So how does that work? What is the legitimate process to do that?
So if any structure is over 50 years old, regardless of whether it's in the Green Book or not, then we ask for a historic resource report to see if it's eligible for listing. Because if it's eligible for listing by the state, then if they're demolishing it, that could be seen as a significant impact, which would trigger, potentially having to do an environmental impact report instead of just a mitigated negative declaration under CEQA. So that's why we asked for that historic resource report, but it determined that it's been so altered over time that it's no longer significant.
Okay.
The Green Book was done in the late.
Survey was done in the mid 70s. The book was published in the early 80s.
Okay, that's helpful.
Did we ever get provided the cultural resources reports with our staff reports?
We don't do that mostly because they
The archaeological ones.
yeah, if you would like us to in the future, we could.
When there's something like at this level where it is gotten at least recognized by at one point, it would be useful as a technical appendix.
Yeah, that's totally understood.
I did look at the photographs, and I agree with the characterization that the building has gone through quite a bit of alteration. Whether when something reaches a tipping point is a subjective determination, but it's certainly in good enough condition that someone could do rehabilitation to recover some of the details. But the shingling is a major change. That's and also there are things that are in the Green Book that were surveyed that probably don't deserve recognition. And there are lots of things that didn't get surveyed that do deserve recognition, and are things that didn't get put onto our local register because landowners elected not to be placed there. So it really is a starting point for a conversation, and you're right to dial in on that. I do think it would be appropriate to have a salvaging condition, though, for the materials if it's going to be demolished. So I can articulate that later, but that's something that seemed. Do we have any ones that we've used in the past that we could recycle for this purpose?
I mean, under historic pres, there's a lot of under the Historic Preservation Commission, they often ask for people to either keep their historic elements that they've taken off in their basement or provide them to people. I know with the city, when the Lloyd building came down, because of city, which I'm sure HTA has similar issues. You can't sell things, you have to give them away. I don't know. There's a little bit of complication with it.
A lot of times there's firms out there that just
want it.
Or want to do the deconstruction or want to do the salvage work. So whether it's something that's paid for or given away, I think that's just from any. I mean, that could be an easy solid waste mitigation just as much as a historical one. But yeah, the old growth redwood that would be a valuable resource that could be salvaged.
I do recall we did add that at one point to, I think, a building that the county was taking ownership of. So I think there's
I can articulate
precedence for that.
As we get closer. I appreciate staff going through some of the hazard considerations. I did notice that there was two different tsunami zones, at least on the GIS for the county. There was the hazard area and then the evacuation area, and all of the property is in the evacuation area, but the hazard area kind of stops at the Blue Ox, or at First Street. It seems like that. So, and I guess I'll just say that this is more not so much a question, but I called Director Kenyon before the meeting a couple of days ago just because I wanted to have a little bit more discussion about that. And it seems to me that a project like this requires compliance with building and fire code, things that are designed to ensure that risks are very low. There's always a risk, much like doing hash extraction requires, especially if it's volatile compounds used, that you have a very literally bomb-proof design. So I don't think it's for us to engineer or require anything on top of that. But I do take note of when you cite a facility like this, the best thing you can do is cite it in a place that's lower density, farther from, so that should the unthinkable occur, it has a better chance of being like an airport zoning, where you don't put a lot of houses in the area where a plane flies over, because planes do crash. But I don't know, short of at a project level, doing anything to offset that. So, and there are similar facilities throughout California. It's just still a fairly new thing. I was talking with a coworker who serves on the Fortuna Planning Commission, and they approved a similar facility a few years back, but it's never been constructed. So I don't really have much to add on that, other than I was a little concerned, but I don't see a way that we can do more than what will already be required, regardless of what we apply. So yeah, I'll be happy to articulate some potential condition language, but maybe that's it for now. I don't have any other comments or questions.
Any further questions?
No, I jumped right into the weeds, but I really didn't have any general questions.
All right. We will open it up for public hearing. If you would like to make a comment, you're welcome. Just step on forward. And just as a reminder, you have 3 minutes, and please state your name. You are not required to speak.
My name is Derek Long. I'm the engineer working for HTA to help him through this process. We did hire Chronicle Heritage to do the architectural historian report. And so I had spoke to them a number of times about salvage. We walked through that building together. They agreed there's nothing left in that building for salvage. It's been heavily modified. And then that report went out to SHPA, the State Historic Preservation Officer, as well. And they looked at the pictures of the report, concurred. They didn't even comment or give suggestions on it. So I suggest before we add salvage conditions that we maybe only condition those that are mentioned in those reports, because I just don't know what we'd actually want to salvage out there, because all the experts are telling us there's nothing left. So anyways, that's me.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jerome Curiozzi. I'm a planner with Humboldt Transit Authority, and the applicant here. I'm also the project manager on this project at HTA, and want to say that I really appreciate you considering our project here tonight. And I wanted to just take a couple minutes and highlight some of the consultants we've brought on this project. The design builder for the hydrogen fueling station is a company, Linde Engineering North America. They're a very large multinational industrial gas supplier and engineering firm. And they have well over 100 years of experience in constructing not only hydrogen fueling stations, but industrial gas supply stations for a variety of different uses. They're very excited about this project. They also have their equipment and engineering has been used in over almost half of the hydrogen fueling stations that are operating currently in California. So they have a lot of their equipment and expertise in the state currently operating as well. And then we also have the Schatz Energy Research Center at Cal Poly Humboldt. They have about 30 years of hydrogen experience, and they are our owner's engineer. We're very excited and lucky to have an entity like that in our own backyard. And we also have the Hydrogen Safety Panel. They're a nonprofit entity under the Pacific Northwest National Labs, and they have decades of experience reviewing specifically hydrogen fueling station projects and looking at their HAZOPS programs and their designs, and they will be reviewing this project as well and making sure the design builder is doing the best that they can on the safety side of things. And on the maintenance bays, where there's the very low potential, but the potential for hydrogen gas to be inside a built environment, we have LDA partners as the architect, as well as GHD engineers, and they have many decades of experience in implementing existing code and regulations around making sure that the risk is very low on this project. And yeah, should any other questions come up, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see the Zoom today, so if you could peek there.
Anybody on Zoom wants to talk, they can raise their hand. Right, Derek?
I'm not seeing anybody on Zoom with their hand raised right now.
Through the chair, could I ask the engineer to come back up? So you mentioned referring this out to experts on salvageability, and you said something about limiting it to the materials in that report.
Yeah.
What did you? Please clarify what you meant by that.
So, you guys mentioned you hadn't seen that report. So sorry, I got looked up. I've seen that, and there is no listed salvage in there. So they don't recommend any salvage in that report. I know you guys haven't seen it. So if you're conditioning something, you don't want to just take my word for it. If you were going to put a salvage condition, I mean, we got to name something, or what are we salvaging as part of your condition. You go to that report, it's not going to list anything. So that's what I was kind of getting at was.
Okay. And
rather than take my word that there's nothing in there, limit it to what's recommended by that report.
All right, I appreciate that, and I will trust you on this one. Is there no old growth redwood in this building?
Yeah, I was a little confused about that because, just to be clear, there can be like things that were milled and have value because they're windows or fabricated or manufactured, part of the building, and then there's just the raw material. And I was really looking at the way it's been altered. I didn't expect there would be much beyond the framing materials, right. But like the second story was an addition, so that might not even have old growth redwood depending on the vintage of that. So there's things that obviously will not be of as much value, but I expect that there's redwood framing within that building. That was really what I had in mind.
Yeah, I just, as far as the demolition for that, I don't know what's really going to be in a salvageable condition once we demolish.
Well, it kind of speaks to how you demolish. So, right, if you take the wrecking ball, yeah,
I know. But at this point, we're planning on getting the lead and asbestos out, pushing it in on itself, getting the appliances out, recycling, and then knocking it down and sorting the waste from there. So we weren't really gonna selective precision demolition this building. So
Thank you. Would you be willing to answer any more questions if they come up during our discussion?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and then we'll bring it back to order at the make a motion and discussion. No, that's okay. Would you bring the motion? Thank you. I'll adopt. There we go. I move the Planning Commission adopt a resolution adopting the initial study mitigated negative declaration, mitigation monitoring and reporting program and response to comment and errata, and conditionally approving the Humboldt Transit Authority hydrogen filling station coastal development permit with the additional PG&E condition proposed by staff.
I will second that.
Further discussion, and certainly if you have more questions for him, we can bring him back up this time.
So do you understand the distinction I'm making between like the the raw materials, like the framing versus the like architectural elements. I
Yes.
would agree with the engineer that there wouldn't be much to salvage as far as architectural details. It seems to have been heavily modified.
Yes. I'm open to you adding that condition back in as far as raw materials. And I guess if you want to specify that, just to make it more clear. So especially if they're not mentioned in the report he's referring to.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it, because things that have a lot of salvage potential usually have more integrity and are in better shape as far as all the original elements. And I could see a consultant who's also at the same time analyzing the building to say it's not historical anymore, also saying because it's not historical, it doesn't really have a lot to salvage. So this is more of a, so I would say the way I would articulate it would be with a condition requiring that old growth redwood elements of the framing and construction are salvaged to the extent practical. So that gives a little bit of flexibility with the demolition effort, not try to do everything super precisely. So does that make sense? So that a condition requiring that that during demolition, old growth materials are salvaged to the extent practical.
You're going to leave the practicality up to the, okay,
Yeah, I don't think we want to micromanage that.
sure. Would you like to add anything to that, Commissioner Kraft?
I'm good with that.
Was that clear?
Yeah, so you're comfortable with that as a friendly amendment to your motion?
I am, yeah. Any further discussion? No. All right, we will do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Kraft,
Aye.
Commissioner Lazar,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Meyer.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries.
thank you. Thank you guys for coming out. All right, looks like the end of our public hearings, and we'll move on to old business, which is none, and move to new business, the general plan conformance review for Humboldt County Office of Education's acquisition of 1105 Myrtle Avenue.
Oh, this is Assistant Planner Henry Baker.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. For your consideration, the General Plan Conformance Review for Humboldt County Office of Education, HCOE's, acquisition of 1105 Myrtle Avenue. Here's the property location in the context of city limits and the coastal zone. The property is located within the coastal zone, shown on the right here in blue, with the city's coastal development permitting within the city's coastal development permitting jurisdiction. Zooming in, we can see the property is located on the northeast side of the intersection of Myrtle and West Avenues. The property is a 2.04 acre corner lot, shown here in yellow, with a 25,000 square foot building, formerly the CVS drugstore, shown here in blue. And it shares a 35 foot tall pole sign and a 220 space parking lot with the Myrtle and West Shopping Center. The shopping center was established in 1971 and subdivided in 1999 from the rest of the shopping center, shown here in red. Various businesses have occupied tenant spaces within the shopping center, but the former CVS building until recently has always been a drugstore. Importantly, the property is 1 block southeast of HCOE's main offices and conference center. So Humboldt County Office of Education is the local educational agency for Humboldt County and provides a number of services that support educational programs throughout the county. HCOE currently rents office space at 2 other locations within the city, and the acquisition would allow HCOE to relocate programs from these satellite offices shown on the top here to the new location seen on the bottom right here. The acquisition would create new space for meetings and professional development. And by purchasing the property, the acquisition would also allow HCOE to build equity rather than leasing privately owned spaces. Per state law, before purchasing property within city limits, a local agency must request a determination from the City of Eureka's Planning Commission on whether the proposed acquisition is consistent with the city's general plan. after which the planning agency has 40 days to provide a determination. A request was received on August 18th, and the deadline for action is September 27th, which is before the next meeting. The city's general plan conformance review allows for transparency in public purchases of property, but is non-binding. Even if the Planning Commission finds the acquisition inconsistent with the general plan, it has no authority to stop or condition the acquisition. And because the Planning Commission has no authority to change a project or propose a mitigation, the acquisition does not require CEQA. So it's important to note that local agencies such as HCOE generally operate under state authority but are not subject to local land use approvals. However, as mentioned on a previous slide, the property is within the city's CDP jurisdiction. Therefore, the city enforces the state's delegated authority here. And therefore, any future development at the site must be consistent with the city's certified local coastal program and may require a CDP from the city. So the city retains significant authority over the development of the property. Staff has completed a review of the city's adopted 2040 general plan goals and policies and found that while the property's use as a drugstore and its convenient location near the Open Door Health Center and the Hospital Medical District fit really well with the neighborhood commercial land use designation, the site is now vacant and underutilized. And while HCOE's offices will not generate sales tax the way a large retail store would, HCOE's application of the property supports multiple general plan goals and policies focused on revitalization of the Wabash Commercial Corridor and infill development, Eureka's role as the region's employment hub and primary center for government offices and services, and support for educational opportunities regionally, and a number of various mobility policies focused on pedestrian and active transportation. And for these reasons, staff believes that the acquisition substantially conforms. Full analysis is included in the staff report, and I do have one correction to the staff report. On the cover page, the applicant's first name is incorrect. So the applicant is Mr. Michael Davies Hughes. So my apologies to commissioners and to the applicant as well for letting that slip through. Now, therefore, staff's recommendation is to receive staff report and adopt a resolution finding the county's acquisition of 1105 Myrtle Avenue substantially conforms with the city's adopted general plan. I have a suggested motion when you're ready, and both myself and the applicant, Mr. Michael Davies Hughes, are available to answer any questions you have.
Thank you for your report. We'll bring it back to the commissioners for questions for our staff.
I guess my only question would be, do you envision, given the plans they have for the property, that a coastal permit would be required?
No, because this is what they want to do is principally permitted, and this is an area of our coastal zone where principally permitted uses, their construction, alteration, demolition are exempt from coastal development permitting, but there's an if attached to that. It has to be consistent with the local coastal program to get that exemption. So you still, even though you don't, if you have a consistent project, you don't need a coastal development permit.
Right. So unless for some reason it proves to be not consistent with the LCP, it would be just a building permit.
Correct. So like, you can't, just because you're in the CADX area doesn't mean you can fill a wetland for a retail store.
Yeah, it seems unlikely we're just going to see this again. That's the only reason I ask, just because the site's largely developed, and but for a parking lot and a building, there's not much more new ground disturbance or anything that would emerge.
No, but we're anticipating this LCP update where we will have design standards that, like objective design standards, that will apply and be part of the LCP, and so they'll have to adhere to those to get their exemption in the future if they decide to build something new.
Yeah, because it's kind of like the area along Harris, and where you have sort of medical offices that are sort of springing around. There's a campus, but it's sort of fragmented, so it could become like a campus one day, given the amount of land that the district is going to hold. But planning for that is going to be beyond what we can talk about tonight, or maybe in the future, probably. But that might be something worthwhile for this area and the coastal planning, Okay.
I see that they're going to do interior renovations, but it does look like they're not planning on changing the exterior facade. Just replace our roof, maybe.
Roof replacement is part of the project, and updating the exterior facade to be more in line with HCOE's vision.
And they do share some shared parking, like the park at the boundary of the property actually goes through some of the parking spaces.
Yes.
Yeah. So at that time, if they decide to make changes in the parking lot to like delineate the space, would that then come back to the commission?
Oh, yeah. I guess it would depend on if there's a parking indenture attached to that. Did you notice anything in that 1999 subdivision file for like how they addressed that subdivision of the two parts of the shopping center?
Yeah, there are easements that which cover the entire property, and I imagine those are parking related and perhaps related to the sign, but staff did not have access to those at the time of the report.
I just see that might become an issue if you have a large amount of parking for the new building versus the retailers. So just wonder how we could mitigate that. Yeah, I could see that having an office building there would be a benefit to the retailers. I certainly, there's restaurants there, and would think that would be a benefit of having them there, but I can foresee some parking issues coming up. No further questions. Okay, I'll open it up for a public hearing. As a reminder, again, you have 3 minutes. We appreciate if you would state your name for the record.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Michael Davies Hughes, not Miles Davis Hughes, and I am the Humboldt County Superintendent of Schools. I appreciate your consideration of this request this evening. I have nothing to add to the content that was in the staff report, and I want to commend Henry for just doing a thorough job of the staff report, but I am here to answer any questions that you may have. Again, thank you for the consideration.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Well, we hold it till we come back to discussion.
I'm glad that happened to you too.
It's okay. It's okay. I promise we'll come back to it. Anyone else in audience tonight like to step on up? It looks like I don't have hands up on Zoom. Going once, going twice. Okay, we'll close that public hearing there and come back for a motion and further discussion and questions for the applicant. There we go. Thank you for bringing that back up.
I'll make the motion. I move the Planning Commission adopt a resolution finding Humboldt County Office of Education's acquisition of 1105 Myrtle Avenue substantially conforms with the city's 2040 general plan.
Second.
I don't think I need to ask my question. I think, I think this is fine for tonight. We really are at a very early stage with this whole thing. I was thinking about like a facilities master plan like the county has for even when we don't know when the opportunity emerges for a new site, but I don't think we really need to get to that level tonight.
This is not. This is prompted by this project, but it's not about this project exactly. I did have a communication with Director Kenyon that seems actually more apropos today. We know that the county is seeking to acquire the old Kmart / Pop and Barkley facility. This one is going to a government entity, and this SF Gate magazine had a beautiful piece on our mall today, where Director Kenyon was quoted as really pulling for some good use. I would encourage the city to be thinking about what is the right size of retail square footage, and we know that it's shrunk. There may be smart people out there who have a prediction that is decent on how much more it may shrink, if at all. But the loss of tax revenues will add up. However, as I said, that's not related to this project. I'm supportive of HCOE, and I'm supportive of this.
Right. There are a lot of large retail open spaces available. I think if it was fighting for space, we might have 100%. A different conversation. And certainly my concerns as a retailer might be, I would show up and I don't see any of those people here. So I guess it's none of my business how they're going to work out that issue. But hopefully they can do that friendly.
My point is, I do think the city would be well served to give some attention and thought to that. And obviously the city is motivated to optimize tax revenues. So that's there.
Yeah, thank you. So no changes to the suggested motion then?
None.
We'll do a roll call vote again.
Commissioner Kraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Lazar?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Mayer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening. We'll move to H2, change of the Planning Commission meeting time or day of the week. Would you like the feedback that we quickly discussed before the meeting?
Yeah, so we're just struggling because we lost Commissioner Benson this and then Commissioner Freitas has engagement at least until the end of this this calendar year on Wednesdays. So I just wanted to put this on the agenda in case we could find a time that worked for all four of our remaining planning commissioners. But doing some work ahead of time. Raylene, do you want to just kind of summarize? Because a lot of agencies use our council chambers, so we have limited time. Fridays are way open, but we feel like that's an inappropriate day for public hearings.
So, yeah, I can come to that. Fridays are open, but that's not really inappropriate for community meetings. Mondays are open, but Commissioner Freitas and I know Commissioner Mayer, Commissioner Freitas is not available, and I know Commissioner Mayer, those are not great days for you. The only thing I could come up with was the first Thursday of the month, where our council chambers is available. At the time we're meeting now, but I did receive an email or read an email from Commissioner Kraft that is not workable for his schedule. So we're kind of left with either we only have 3, and if anyone has to recuse themselves, we were in trouble, or we can change the time of the meeting and make it later so Commissioner Freitas can get here on leave it the same day, but Commissioner Freitas can get here.
So we kind of chatted before and just agreed that we would commit to being here for the next 3 meetings. I guess if a recusal has to happen, then we would have a special meeting anyway, and we could change the date to ensure that Commissioner Freitas could be here. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I guess in addition to committing to being here, just like we need to make sure that none of you need to recuse yourselves ahead of the meeting so we can adjust it.
Or reschedule at that time. My other question is if for any reason, say one of us falls ill or something like that, we can still use the Zoom to come in for a meeting.
I just realized that next meeting, we want to do general plan conformance review for the Kmart site.
I will not probably be acting on that, I don't think.
But we need 3 of you.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
So we could try to just
I don't know if we're going to get a quorum because...
I'm unentangled now.
Okay.
Yeah, so
we could...
that would have
Kristen,
been an issue.
Do we need 3 or do we just need a vote of everybody in the room?
We
So
need
we could
3
do it if there's 3 people, could we do 2? Is the passing vote 2?
But if somebody recuses themselves, they leave the room. And so then we're down to not having a quorum.
So I'm pretty I mean, I haven't talked about this with the city council, but legal counsel, I mean. I'm pretty confident that my former association with Papa and Barkley would not. I mean, I never had an ownership stake in that building. So it wouldn't have really affected my finances one way or another anyway. But now that's quit and clean for a year. I'm pretty sure I can sit on that.
I think Commissioner Lazar is concerned that he, as an employee of the county, would not.
There's that. So we're
But Commissioner Lazar, you've done it before for us, general plan conformance review for county related.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I did it for the ones on
Do we have
Street.
Attorney on tonight?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
And maybe we can look
Okay,
into
we'll
it.
circle back on this.
Yeah, I'd
and
prefer.
set
I mean,
us-
it might become like offices for my job. You know, like it just seems a little bit close. You know, in this case, whereas the other was a different arm of the county. So it just.
But we could preemptively reschedule the meeting for a day that would work
maybe
for
we'll
everybody.
do a special meeting in October, and then it sounds like we'll just stick to our time in November and December. And Commissioner Freitas was totally flexible. She understood, like, either way was fine with her.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about moving later, but I think the 3 of us agreed that we could if we absolutely had to. So that would be one option for a special meeting. I would also say that with some notice, that first Thursday could be a special meeting, and I could break my other commitment once.
And Thursdays are planning commission for me for my job, so it's
Okay.
not really ideal.
But going back to confirm, if we were sick, we could still then Zoom in to make sure that we still had 3 on
Oh,
site.
yes.
Yeah.
And I'll start looking for a special meeting date for October soon, like probably tomorrow, so I can send a doodle poll and try to tack something down quick sooner than later.
Okay.
And perhaps you could get some feedback from the city council. Yeah.
And general plan conformance review is not the biggest deal because we're not.
Low.
They don't need us to like if we fail to take an action within 40 days, then it's deemed that we're saying it's in compliance with our general plan.
Can we just do that? This is like a kabuki dance. Those reviews.
Well, no, I thought this was productive because I think you have a good point about thinking about how much retail space we need.
And I thought your quotes were very good in the article, and I liked the work that you had done with Cal Poly. So good job.
Oh, thanks.
I thought it was like a shining part of the article.
Oh, good. Because I had more optimistic quotes that didn't get put in there. I felt like the article was a little bit like
doom and gloom.
Doom and gloom. Yeah.
But you had like you were showing a vision, and that's kind of how it ended. So I thought that was nice.
Well, not for nothing. I just walk in to do some banking there today, and there were people. There were people buying stuff. It's, I mean, it's not great, but it's less dead than was reported.
With our Placer AI subscription, we look at all of our different areas, and that is still like the top visitor destination in Eureka, the mall.
Do you think it has to do with the bus system that's running through there?
Probably.
Okay. Because it doesn't show you where in the mall they're at, right? It just
No,
shows
it's
you,
just a
like,
perimeter around the mall. Yeah.
Because that's definitely a
I
busy
mean that
hub.
banking too. I go there for that. There's lines out the door on the weekend.
All right. We'll adjourn. Done.
Great job. Awesome.